underground, 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 underground,
Greetings, surface dwellers. My name is Michael, and these are my chthonic musings. We're still at RPG A Day 2025, nearing the end, taking the next two prompts, putting them together, and see what we get. Okay, my friends, today's prompts are prompt 26, Nemesis, and prompt 27, Tactic. And I have to say, when I first looked at these, I wasn't particularly inspired of how I was going to approach these two prompts. On the surface, it just seemed, pretty straightforward. Your enemies fight you, and you fight your enemies, and that's how the role-playing games go. And there wasn't really, much meat there for a topic to talk about. But then I did a little bit of looking in. Is there a meaning behind Nemesis or Tactic that's beyond what I'm thinking? And indeed there was. I did not realize that Nemesis is the Greek goddess of retribution. And that's interesting. And not only is your nemesis, in the sense that we typically use the word, somebody that thwarts you or stands in your way or undermines your efforts, there may be, a little bit of a reason for them thwarting you. You may have overstepped your bounds. Maybe you are the baddie in certain situations. So, so limiting not just like a villain or somebody that's against you, but specifically to the topics of either, let's say, retribution or revenge can make things a little bit more interesting. And also another interesting part about the goddess, Nemesis, is that she also has in her sights people that are unusually lucky. And that's interesting, too, to kind of like, maybe take them down a peg as well and put the scales back into balance. And so I think what I'm going to do today is a little less, general theory craft and some brainstorming and some ideas that come out of this idea of, retribution and revenge, and also the goddess's recalibration of unusually lucky people. And I think actually, let's start with that one. I think it would be interesting to have in our role-playing games that have pantheons and gods and goddesses. If you have a deity that is in the old D&D sense a lawful neutral, a deity that's about keeping things in balance. So here's an idea. This church to this deity collects donations and monetary donations and redistributes them to the needy, to the poor. Now let's also say, as a game mechanic, we are playing in a game that has either critical hits or something where it's an unusually lucky thing that happens and it's good for our players. Not about what they choose to do, but pure luck. And that's why I choose critical hits or critical successes. And let's say we keep track of that during a session. And there's a certain threshold where it's unusually lucky. And if you were to hit that threshold, if the players were to hit that threshold, either individually tracking would probably be too much. So maybe I'm thinking more like as a party, total number of crits during a session, and I'd have to think it through. But whatever it is, if it's 7, 10, whatever it happens to be, then it's unusually lucky. And then there's a little bit of divine intervention that pushes the needle the other way. And I guess if you want it to be fair, you could do the same thing with critical failures or fumbles if you're doing the same thing. If that hits a certain threshold, you could go in the other direction. But I would also allow the party, if they feel like they're being unusually lucky over a period of time, to make donation. And let's say a certain donation to this church for the needy resets their tracker, so they don't have to wait for divine intervention. They have the power of taking care of that themselves. So that's one idea. And I'm also going to discuss 3 sets of NPCs. Went through a number of different source books, and kind of zooming in on the idea of retribution or revenge. Did some rolling on some tables and came up with the following ideas. The first and last are single NPCs, and in the middle is a set of 3 brothers. All right, so the first NPC is coming from a table called Paybacks in Tales of Argos. I talked about this in Musing number 19. Right, because it says here, hirelings treated poorly tend to react adversely over time, particularly mercenaries. So that sounds a lot like retribution. And it's a 2d6 table, entries 2 through 12, and I rolled an 11, which is sabotage. So we have here an NPC, and this is kind of nebulous because this NPC isn't in play yet, but an NPC who, if treated poorly, would revert to sabotage. Specifically, the hireling sabotages the PC's gear in some way. Frays climbing rope, holes in water skin, greases sword hilt, etc. And just for fun, I made a couple of rolls on the from social encounters along the Silk Road, which we also talked about in Musing 19, and rolled once on the value table, and it came up 14. Intemperate. This character is prone to drink, drugs, or other forms of inebriation to the point of addiction. And so I decided that this character is a drinker. And not to push it too far, I decided that they are, not a mean drunk, but a happy drunk. And but they happen to laugh very loudly when they're drunk, and they're usually drunk. And I rolled twice on the interest table, also in social encounters along the Silk Road, and came up with 13, prejudice against a religious denomination, and 4, admires wisdom, either religious wisdom or wisdom in general. So that's kind of interesting. And so again, without placing this NPC into a particular environment, you have to leave things a little bit loose here, but it would be interesting if there were a religion and wherever this NPC is going to be placed that is kind of straight-laced and, professes temperance, particularly if it's like of the no alcohol, zero alcohol variety. That would certainly give this NPC a reason to not like that religion. And then, but they like wisdom, which is interesting. So they don't like this particular religion. Maybe they're in alignment with another religion, or just wisdom, non-religious wisdom. So that's kind of an interesting thing to keep in your back pocket when playing this NPC. And I think, like, to sweeten things up a little bit, I would also I decided that this is a female dwarf, this NPC, and she also has some skills with smithing, and maybe has like a portable gear repair kit of sorts. And this would be most applicable in a game system that has the ability for gear to get damaged and then repaired, like Tales of Argosa or Dragonbane or other systems like that. And if in like Dragonbane, like a master blacksmith can sharpen edged or impaling weapons to give them a slight bonus, that's something that she could do as well. And then finally, in order to use an NPC like this, you'd have to consider whether or not your game system encourages hirelings, and for the party to have hirelings and henchmen and other NPCs traveling around with them, or if that's not something that's applicable to the game system that you're running. But if it is, this character could be very interesting. So she has positive qualities, some negative qualities, and then depending on how your party, they might not hire her at all. And how does that, is it, if your party decides not to hire her, is it done in a rude and obnoxious way? In which case, that tendency to resort to, sabotage of people that, cross her might kick in, and she might either something along the lines of like a practical joke or something like that, or just, that they might get the holes in the water skins or something like that. Or if they do hire her, and if they treat her well, consistently, even though she might have that tendency for sabotage, it may never come up. Or she might, around the campfire one night, give some advice to the PCs of how they should treat the people that wrong them, and give show a little edge of that dark side of this character, and telling them about how they should, use this technique of sabotaging the gear of their enemies. All right, the next set of NPCs comes from a roll on the table, 1-19, Reason for Seeking Vengeance / Revenge, from the Tome of Adventure Design Revised by Matt Finch. It's a D100 table, and I rolled an 11. Now this is the Reason for Vengeance. Kinsman was beaten for obnoxiousness to commoner. So in this inciting incident, we have at least two parties in the first incident. There was somebody that was obnoxious to a commoner, and they got beaten up because of it. So probably more than the two, unless it was a commoner themselves doing the beating. And then we have at least a third party, the kinsman to this person who's beaten up. And I decided to find it that the person was obnoxious to the commoner, and this resulted in a full-out tavern brawl. And the person that's started this obnoxiousness who happens to be, a selfish bully, was beaten as a result of it. And now we have the kinsman. And I decided to have more than one kinsman, have two kinsmen, so for a total of 3 brothers. And actually, I mean, they don't actually need to be brothers, but the gender doesn't really make too much of a difference. But the fact that there are 3 siblings involved is important. Now, as far as how the PCs are involved, they could be introduced, into this situation before it happens, and you could let the kind of brawl start and describe what's going on, and they could get involved or not get involved. In any case, I thought I'd let this, the idea of this situation, allow me to craft these 3 siblings. So, first of all, we have the bully, who's selfish and angry and very self-centered, and is prone to get into these brawls or these conflicts. And he's very self-centered, but he's loyal to his other siblings. The other 2 siblings, we'll take one by one. One of them is religious, or at least involved in a religion, but is also a cultist, secretly. This sibling is very self-righteous and also loyal to the other 2 siblings and loyal to the cult. So there's a little bit of dual loyalties to this particular sibling. And the 3rd sibling is agreeable, or at least outwardly agreeable. Also a cultist, so 2 out of the 3 are cultists. Very devious and completely loyal to the cult. So in the case of a conflict between the cult and anything else, including the siblings, this 3rd sibling would side with the cult and throw their siblings under the bus, so to speak. Now, the first NPC, the bully, is aware that the other 2 siblings are in the cult and has pushed back and does not want anything to do with the cult. But, like I said, is still loyal to the siblings, so won't betray that secret. Other than that, his motivations are pretty simple. I mean, he would love nothing more than a rematch. If, let's say, that, he did get into a conflict, brawl with the PCs. He'd be up for just, once he recuperates, coming back for another round. The self-righteous sibling may be more inclined to, let's say, use legal means and try to shake down the PCs for, some sort of reparations, or, threaten to have them imprisoned or something, of the nature. And the other sibling, the devious, agreeable one, who is completely loyal to the cult, may see the PCs simply as tools or dupes, and may try to use any threats of retribution as an incentive to say, well, all could be forgiven if you were to do this task for us, which would secretly be a task for the cult, or come up with some other plan of how to get the PCs involved, unbeknownst to them, to serve the aims of the cult. And the idea for the last NPC comes from the Dungeon Master's Guide for 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons. On page 94, there's a table for villain schemes, and there's objective and scheme. The objectives are a D8 roll, but I just selected one of them because number 7 is revenge, and that's what we're focusing on today. But within that, there is a D4 table, and I rolled on that. I got a 4, and it's retrieve stolen property and punish the thief. Now on the next page, 95, there's also a villains methods table. And taking a roll on that, got a 20, which is warfare. So this is all out war. And within that, there's a D6 table. And I rolled a 2 for invasion. So whatever was stolen made somebody pretty damn mad. And so I decided that we're going to lean into the classic mummy trope. And something that I like to call the reverse heist, where something that was stolen must be returned to try to undo the damage, undo the curse of the mummy. But in this case, I decided it would be fun to try to make it a little bit lower level than a full-blown, mummy encounter. And it would be fun to have these be monkeys, mummy monkeys, and there's 3 of them, and so they were entombed, separately from their owner, and yeah, they had their own treasure, including a little monkey idol, and that's the object in question here. So this theft of this monkey idol has triggered a full-scale invasion of the town or the keep there where the thief is hiding out. And I decided I've always liked the giant fire beetles with the glowing red glands, and so it's going to be some form of that, of like the giant beetles are attacking the town, and that would be like the first thing that the PCs, the first indication that something's wrong is all of a sudden out of nowhere these, kind of wave upon wave of these, low-level threats, but like they keep coming and what's going on. And after the indication that something's amiss, the PCs could be contacted by the henchmen of this thief, because the thief is in a safe house. He's hidden away somewhere, so he can't be targeted by this invasion of the fire beetles. And he knows he's in trouble, and he knows that the monkey idol has to be returned, but he can't do it himself. So the henchmen will approach the PCs for this task, to give them the monkey idol, tell them that it needs to be returned, and perhaps also give them like a map of the sewer system, to give them the PCs some way of exiting the keep fairly discreetly, so they don't have to try to convince somebody to open the front door to let them out. And also there could be a little bit of an adventure in the sewers of trying to make this escape to the outside, and then the trek to the place where the tomb of the monkeys, and then the actual return of the item. And the escape from the tomb as well. Let's not forget the last part. And so, until I resurface, may your successes be many and your failures be memorable.